We do have some time from Q&A. We have one question that's come in so far on Slido. If you need the QR code again, it's behind you. Check it out. Get your questions in. We will have time after the two other talks to do questions as well. Oh, there's more. Great. So modelling evangelism to our churches is key. How do we dismantle the notion that evangelism should be left up to the pastor or the professional?
That is a wonderful question. Evangelism flourishing in churches, we often lean towards the two extremes of top-down, the sort of professional or pastor-led only. Well, so you've got the spectacular preacher or whatever, and they're their charismatic individual, and they will do it, or the pastor will do it all. Or the other model, which is very common as well, is, no, it's not the staff's job at all. This is actually just the congregation. And you sort of leave it a bottom-up, top-down. It's one or the other. But the way that it works in churches who are seeing both these conversions is not one or the other, it's both, and it's actually not dependent on a charismatic individual, but rather it needs to be led by the staff, and I mean modelled, but also led. You would, I'm assuming, never leave the small group ministry in your church or the preaching ministry of your church to a layperson. If you've a church which has a staff that's pastors, you may, of course, outsource things and lead over, but you wouldn't just let anything happen. You would oversee what happens. Why would we ever do the same in evangelism? We should never do that. So evangelism must be led by someone on staff. But that doesn't mean that they do it, rather that they view their role, like Ephesians 4 tells us, to train and equip the saints for works of service so the body may be built up. So that we are having staff and pastors leading the saints in evangelism. How that happens is exactly what we're going to talk about, so I won't go into but we will get right to the nitty-gritty of how I want to offer that works. But it's both of them at the same time.
Great. Next question. What things do you think we in our tribe are in danger of compromising on in favour of the non-Christian?
Well, I have opinions. And I have opinions on this because in many senses, when you guys in the UK cough, in Australia we get a cold. Okay, not in every sense, but in a lot of it. You lead the way in a whole range of ways. Not cricket or rugby or anything, but just, not rugby. Rugby league, not rugby league. Forget rugby union. But and there has become, I think, in the UK over the last 20 years or so, a dedication to a form of apologetics as being a necessary thing that must take place before the gospel can be proclaimed. And that form of apologetics has ebbed and flowed. I'd say 20 years ago there was a real obsession with debating atheists. You know, the Richard Dawkins, we've got to defeat these guys. Even though most non-Christian people in the United Kingdom had never heard of Richard Dawkins, they're not atheists. They're theistic pagans, but they're not, and yet there was this obsession with that as being the thing. And yet all the data indicated, by the way, your own data, done by Evangelical Alliance and all those surveys, that the things that non-Christians most disliked about Christianity were debates and arguments. But we thought it was the most important, and then we inherited some of that. The one at the moment is about the positive apologetic of cultural influence. So look at the good Christianity has done to the world, therefore listen to us. And that seems innocuous, and inoffensive, and it's not a bad, it's a helpful thing to point to. But it's not evangelism. And I want to offer, it's actually most helpful not done pre-evangelism, but post-evangelism. The Apostle Paul, when he would evangelize anywhere, even Acts 17, mamma mia, that passage is, like Paul the apologist. He spends 2 minutes saying, hey, I see you've got a tomb. He then spends what? There's 20 verses where he just gospels them straight, everywhere else. As well as that, what does he do? He proclaims the gospel, then he stays. And I want to offer that that's the place of apologetics. We proclaim the gospel, and we press repeat on that, and then we use those things. But I think in the UK, there has been I'd say an obsession with believing that you need to offer a worldview for people to try on before they hear the gospel. That is unbiblical. It is radically unbiblical, but it's also completely unnecessary and ineffective. And that's seeping down to Australia. Thanks very much. Yeah.
If you want to know more, chat more later during the break. Next one. If success in mission is determined by disciple making disciples, how do we encourage faithful proclaimers who aren't seeing fruit? Have they failed?
That's a wonderful question. Yes and no. In the same way that use a less loaded topic, personal Bible reading. Okay? Do we want our people reading the Bible on their own? Yes. I hope. Yes. Of course we do. Are we preaching to that ends and small groups and trying to facilitate? Because we know the good that will do to people. Yes. Can we make them do it? No. You can try, but no, you can't. If they don't do it, have you failed? Yes. Are you responsible? No. They are. They are. But you're the leader, you're the shepherd that God has given them. And so is it possible, this is the question about this success failure, and maybe the word's not helpful, but I think it is actually because it's a provocative word, so I like it. But at the same point, you want to say, hey, God is sovereign and responsible over the result of evangelism, whether people actually respond. But Acts chapter 14 is a great example. Paul, he goes to Iconium, and it tells us this, as he preached so effectively that many were saved. Paul became a Jew to the Jew, a Gentile to the Gentiles. He does all things possible with the means that he has in order to win people. So I think we can often lean too much on our faithfulness, without realizing the New Testament makes it very clear that we are free to pour our effort and energy into endeavoring to see more result, and God works in that. And so I want to say failure, yes, but that doesn't mean you're a failure. It means that, hey, if I'm not achieving what I'm hoping to do here, is it possible that I'm contributing to that? Same as the Bible reading thing. Is it possible that actually I'm modeling or I'm pointing them towards a practice and a pattern which is unsustainable and unusable, and I need to come up with a different way? And I'd say that's what we do. We go, well, I'm not just going to give up. I've got to come, okay, we're going to get a WhatsApp group and we're all going to message in together, or we're going to, whatever. And so it's the same thing. So you're not a failure if you fail at it, but I think we need to aim for people becoming Christians. We need to stop moving the goalposts and think the aim is just to see Christians evangelizing. That is not the aim. It is one of the aims, but that is not the exclusive aim. The aim is to see non-Christians become Christians and to see Christians evangelizing. It's not one or the other. And I think in the UK, you've often pushed away the conversion thing and you just focus on, I just want to see Christians doing it. And that's what it's about. And I want to go, no, that's part of what it's about. But let's remember the non-Christians and converting them. We want to do that as well.
Just want to jump back to, I guess, your answer from the previous question. I think you mentioned there, if I heard you right, apologetics, not evangelism. Mm-hmm. Could you define for us, because I think that might be helpful, what is evangelism? How would you or what does that include in that?
Thank you so much for that. And what a wonderful foundation to hit on. It's very helpful. What is evangelism? Well, I think 1 Corinthians 15 is a beautiful articulation of the gospel. Paul summarizes the gospel there beautifully for us. Not only there, Romans 1, Jesus is Lord is the gospel. So what is the gospel? It's a proclamation of news. It's not just a Christian term. It's used in the ancient world, like the birth of a king, the birth of a prince is a gospel, an announcement. What is the announcement of? Well, it's of the good news of Jesus Christ, which is what? Well, the life, death, resurrection, ascension, reign and rule of the Lord Jesus, so that Jesus has lived, he died for sin, penal substitution, I think atonement and the wrath of God, that he died by the will of his Father, he rose from the dead, he reigns to the heavens, he rules and reigns with authority over the world, and he calls everyone to repent and believe. And that's the thing that actually is with all of it, it's essential to remember evangelism, the thing that makes it not just a gospel word, but actually a gospel proclamation, is the call to respond in repentance and faith. And it's a wonderful thing we'll talk about later with preaching on a Sunday. We don't need to do evangelistic sermons every Sunday, but gee whiz, can I tell you, if you have a passage and in that passage is an explicitly evangelistic moment and you proclaim the gospel very clearly, you should call people to respond in repentance and faith. I'm not saying do an altar call necessarily, although why not, but not necessarily. But I do think every time we say the gospel, explicitly like that, call people to respond with repentance and faith. So evangelism is the proclamation of God's gospel about Jesus Christ to sinners with the hope that they will respond in repentance and faith through the power of the Spirit in the Word. Yeah.
Great. We're going to stop there now for questions, and we'll kind of go through all the ones that have been put in that we haven't answered and kind of come back to those later on. I'm going to finish our time together by praying and then hand over to a quick book plug. So a lot of these are questions that we didn't have time for before lunch. I feel you may have answered some of them, but let's just look at them just so people are clear on their answers. So what if you put in a lot of effort into running a course like you describe, but no one brings anyone? So do you end up in a bit of a vicious cycle where people see it as a flop?
Great question. The actual how you do these things requires the wisdom of other people who've gone ahead of you. You need to sit with someone, have a mentor, a guru. I hate the word mentor. We don't really use it in Australia. It's an American word. Have a mate who you can call and go, what about this? And so just someone in this room, maybe someone you know who's actually run courses before. And what that means is you will learn, you should expect it to be very small at first. You learn not to make it like a Billy Graham event the first time you run it. You learn not to advertise it like it's, a visitation of the king, but rather that it's almost casually advertised because you know that your ability to know how to put this on and bring your church family into it is the way that it will not be a 2-year plan, but a 20-year plan. You plan for the suck in order to achieve the success. So what that means is it's scalable, and I would offer that actually, I would say in churches like yours, the mission heat that most of your churches will have, you could easily expect 4 to 5 non-Christians to come, regardless of your church size, to be brought the first time you run it. Imagine that, amazing. So you run it, you have a team of 10, maybe 8. You have 4 Christians bring in 4 people, 2 Christians bring in 4 people. You have a few random Christians come, and you might choose to use a classroom with a talk, but pretty chilled. The next time will be smaller. Same classroom, but maybe, keep the same team. It's the 3rd time, you'll get a bit of an upbeat and go on and on. But you've got to prepare for you think it'll be easy? It's not easy, it's very difficult. But it works, it's worth it, but it is about scaling and expectations. I think that's the key thing. And if after 5 goes at it, it still sucks, guess what the problem is? Guess who the problem is? It's you. It's the way you're running it. There's something wrong with the way you're running it. So talk to someone who knows better than you do and say, tell me what to do. That's how I learned. I just called people I know and said, tell me what to do. There's no plagiarism in evangelism. There's no plagiarism in evangelism. Take it. Take it. My goodness. If someone wants to sue you for it, just do it. So that's what I'd say.
How do you find the balance between repeatedly running the evangelism course and also doing follow-up, I guess, in terms of time? And I'm suspecting this question's maybe shaped by someone in maybe a smaller team, smaller church, who's thinking, I'm going to run this course with this many people, and then you also want me then to start running a year-long thing for people afterwards.
So you run it once a year. So pick the time you believe most non-Christians would come to a course like this. I'd offer term 1 or term 2. Please don't pick just before your summer holiday. Do not do that. But term 1 or term 2. And you choose to run it at a particular scale with the idea that you're going to turn this into a group that's going to meet every week until summer or whatever. And then you get to your summer, you break, and then you go, okay, we're going to do it again, and we're going to do the exact same thing again. Or you might decide we're going to do it term 1 and now term 2 because we've got enough. So what I do, though, is I always make sure that I am bringing people along with me because I want to grow that team because I believe in training people for evangelism. I don't know about you guys. So when I run a follow-up Bible study group, I always have a co-leader. And my aim is always to abandon that co-leader with the group within a matter of months. But I don't expect them just to be able to do it. For most, the best growth group Bible study leaders will struggle to explain the Bible to non and new Christians. People don't know how non-Christians, How little non-Christians know, so they need to watch you do it. And you'll suck at it first too, but then you just think of them as children with bigger brains, but they know nothing. And so over time, though, you have enough people who are suddenly... So at the church I was at, which was a very big church, where we saw hundreds of people converted every year, what we would do is end up having 4 follow-up groups every time we would run it, and we ran it 4 times a year. That would require 2 leaders per group 4 times a year. The resources that took was enormous. Thankfully, the church had 3,000 people, so in comparison to the rest of the growth group material, it was nothing. It was nothing. But it meant we had these people who'd been trained 20 years earlier, they were on the bench, if you know that, they're sitting there waiting, and we're happy to call. Hey, we've got another group. Would you be able to come and run this group? But that's 20 years down the track, At first, just do it one by one, but bring someone alongside with you all the time.
How do ministries designed to be contact and connect, but also do good things in and of themselves, like maybe a food bank or a toddler group, fit into these models? And I guess even adding on to that, how do we use those pre-evangelistic events like curry nights as part of this pathway as well?
Don't. Do them, it's fine. But do not tell your people to bring non-Christians to it. Stop it. Why would you do that? Imagine Jesus is coming home next week. Not home. He's calling us home next week. Honestly, I've got to be frank. Why not? There's nothing wrong with those groups. Mum nights, curry nights, food bank. Terrific. The issue is communication and distraction and delusion. There's 10 more words I could use. So our Christians will end up thinking that's what we're doing for evangelism at church. And so if you give a Christian a curry night, okay, or an evangelistic course as an option, which one do you think they will choose? That. Why? Because it's easier. It's softer. Why would they choose that? Because they're cowards. Why do we know that? Because we're cowards. We know that, right? So they will choose the lower bar. So you need to be very, very careful about what lower bars you have, how many you have, because the Christian will use their invite on the thing that doesn't have any expectation of conversion. So instead, run your curry night. Advertise it like this. Church family, really good. We're going to have a curry night. Why you love curry? I don't know why. We're going to run a curry night. It's going to be awesome. Looking forward to seeing you there. If you want to find out more details, come and see me. If you want to invite your friends, feel free. Catch you later. That's a very different communication to, well, friends, we've got Christianity Explored coming up. And we advertise that to the Christian. Say, this is for the people you know who don't know Jesus. We would love for you to bring them along. You can find information here, and then we say, and if you're here today and you're not a Christian, or you're not sure where you are with God, this is for you. We want you to become a Christian. We'd love for you to come. So 5% for the non-Christian, 95%. So keep the groups going, it's fine. But be aware that the more of them you have, the harder it is to prioritize this thing. It's the magnifying glass illustration, okay? If you have too many things you're shining the mission heat onto, it doesn't light fire. So I'm not saying cancel all of your ministries, but I'm saying decrease emphasis on them for non-Christian people, for your church family.
Great. Any particular books that you would recommend, apart from the Bible, the question says, that have helped you in evangelism, or I guess thinking through how you do, I guess, this model and build heat in your church family?
Yeah. Well, so the best book in evangelism, I think, Honest Evangelism by Rico is just magnificent, and I think this should be in the hands of most Christians. I think it's written at a level Christians can really grab hold of. I think it's a wonderful book. Question in Evangelism by Randy Newman is a wonderful book for personal one-to-one evangelism. Max Stiles has a few books like that as well. John Chapman's No One Tell the Gospel is another great book for that. Evangelism and the Sovereignty of God, if we're just speaking personally, was a book that really opened my eyes to confidence and gave me great confidence, but it's probably at a level that for most Christians today, reading-wise, they may struggle in Australia, not here in Scotland, of course, but I think it's a wonderful book. When it comes to what we're talking about today, no. And I don't want lay people to have books about this. This is our job. This is about us. If it's about, though, books for us, then yeah, Growth and Change by Andrew Hurd. So he was my boss. He's a wonderful, kind, godly, fantastic man and very wise. Great book. And Trellis and the Vine by Tony Payne and Cole Marshall are 2 books which talk a lot about this kind of thing. So I'm not against Christians seeing it, but I just feel like So I'm not saying don't give those to lay people, but I think for lay people, we want to say, what's our goal here? Well, we want them to know and tell the gospel, yeah? So let's just get them in there. And then rather than strategy and stuff, I don't think they need to know strategy. They need to know